The Fall of Sunset Shimmer. Probably one of my favorite comics of the IDW Friendship is Magic series that I've kind of read, and also I enjoy the lore of seeing how and what background stuff is to the canon comic series. Now, with that in mind comes the title of what I presented. Well, about 6 hours ago when this video has been made, a fellow YouTuber of one of my friends named Minty Root made a video, or animated version of the comic. It's loosely based off of the comic, but it does serve a purpose, and we're going to basically compare and contrast both versions, the comic, the IDW one, and the fan Minty Root version. Both of them will be in the description, and also Minty's channel will be on the bottom. I recommend checking his channel out, and then probably the IDW comic dub, the person who did that. So let's start off with the IDW comic first, because to sum it up, it's probably one of the more darker stories compared to other stuff that's happened. Friendship is Magic with Sombra and Princess Amora, but the Fall of Sunset Shimmer is more of a dark drama. It's supposed to tell the final moments, and for those that are probably going to be like, wait, what's going on? Anyone that's not read the comics, do watch the video for the comic dub of the fan comic dub of the IDW comic. I recommend it because it's damn good. It tells a lot of backstory from the EQG series. So, for those that don't know or want a refresher, I'm going to tell you about the Fall of Sunset Shimmer in a nutshell. Basically, it's the final moments of Sunset as a student with the Princess Celestia into her final days. I would say it's the final days and maybe weeks, because it does go on for weeks and weeks. The plot device is obviously the crystal mirror, which we already know every 30 moons the portal to another world opens up. Basically, Sunset starts noticing the mirrors, weird powers, and of course pesters Celestia for weeks on end about this mirror. Of course, she's told no, so she goes to the dark end of the library, reads all about it, and also the Necronomicon, which I don't understand why that's a reference. Maybe Evil Dead kind of got into the mix, I don't know. But we see the final moments of the relationship, the mentor and student relationships of Celestia and Sunset. And she's basically barred from the castle, banned as a student, but welcome to stay in Camelot. And then, of course, arguments ensues, and the biggest mistake of Celestia's life, one of many. That's pretty much like a big argument. Sunset leaves via the crystal mirror, and then we get the backstory of the entire EQG series in a nutshell. Until, of course, the other comic part, but we'll get to that one kind of later. I don't know. I kind of thought about just doing this one, but once again, I would recommend checking the comic dub of that version in the description down below. Now, the Minty Root version. I've got a little bit to say, but not a lot, because of course I'm following the 24-hour rule of not spoiling shit. So, if you want to watch that, please watch it. I recommend it. It's damn good. But it does tell a lot. So, aside what was told in the IDW comic series, we never really got a chance to see the relationship of the mentor and the student. So, compare and contrast that immediately, like, we get a different vibe coming into the whole comic series. How the darker side of the comic, we see the final days, like the final weeks, the day that happens. Yeah, we do see the final days of that happening in the animated version, but we don't really see the relationship of both Sunset and Celestia at all. Like, we don't even get a chance to see, like, a part of their lives. Like, how they intertwine, how they connect. Kind of. It's so-so on that. But, and of course I'm making this material on the fly, so don't bash me that I'm not doing a good job explaining. This is like I said, everything's in the description down below. I recommend watching all that and getting your own take on it, but this is just how, like, literally fresh reactions coming out from watching it, and including what I rewatching the comic dub of the Fall of Sunset Shimmer IDW version. But overall, it's a much more lighthearted and more, I would say it's more of a brightened version and a more storytelling driven version, because we finally get, I would say, a more like how in the weeks we get to finally develop with these characters. We get to develop a little bit more. We get to see more into their lives. Kind of in quotes, because of course there's scenes missing, like how Sunset kind of got her reputation as a student, but we do see a different side of both Celestia and Sunset. The more mentory mother side of Celestia, and then of course the sometimes confident but not too sure on what to do, needs a little help kind of Sunset, which is really this is like, wait, when we first saw Sunset, either the comic or the movie, she was not that nice, and seeing this version of Sunset kind of just like, it's a sudden door opener, like, what the fuck is going on? But I do enjoy how they try to show Sunset's woes about making friends. She doesn't know how to start, how to go. Sure, I'm going to also do a breakdown of both of these and try to come up with some sort of theory later in this, but to sum it up, all in all, we do get some of the events, but told differently in some sense. Like, we're seeing it in someone else's mind. That will be explained later. But all in all, we do get the events, kind of loosely the same events from the comic to translate to animation, but in a very different way. It's really good, very majestic. Animation styles spot on, like very, very spot on. Like, I'm impressed that 2D animation and 3D animation kind of intertwined together to make like almost this beautiful piece of art. And it's probably one of the best piece of arts I've seen video wise as like a short film. It feels amazing. It feels breathable. It feels fluid. The crystal mirror is freaking fluid. It's like you touch it and it's literally liquid, which is very different from what we got from the movie version of EQG, and how the mirror just kind of just did its traditional magic stuff. You kind of do see a different thing with this version of the crystal mirror. Like, you touch it and it kind of just almost does this ripple effect. It's beautiful. I'm gonna praise this to death until death do us part. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful, solid animation. It's very fluid. It's more free form, and it feels like you're a part of their world as much more as like seeing the two sides almost kind of like intertwining and joining together in some points, sometimes clashing. But all in all, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful animation piece, and I can't praise it enough for being beautiful as it is. Now, to break down both versions, both of them do have a sense of what's going on. Of course, there are some scenes from the animation that almost take from the original EQG, the very first one. And it shows, like, I would say before Sunset steals the crown, I guess. But if Celestia is out and about before Sunset even shows up, this could be while Twilight's fiddling with a bed with her wings. But it does show a really cool like reflection moment of going to the mirror and saying, what can I do more than what's already been done? I can't change the past, I can't change the future. Some things are just set in stone. And it could also be the reflection of what she knows about the crystal mirror, which is very interesting. Because if she knows what's on the other side of the world, well, kind of, because of course the ominous message she made in the very first EQG of why the main six couldn't go in altogether, because it would cause a paradox effect. We'll get to that later. I'll probably do a video on that. I raise my hands and say I will probably do a video on that. But the fact that she reflects as she touches the mirror, it's almost like she's opening her own memories. It's beautiful. We don't really see that in the comic version, which really we start to see the parting of the contrastion of both the animation and the comic. Like, you don't see the relationship of both Sunset and Celestia at all. You don't see the relationship. You just assume that, oh, she just passed her midterm. Okay, she's a good student. Then when people argue, like, they complain about Sunset's behavior being bad, that's raising the problem. So, to kind of break down the comic version, it could be told from Celestia's perspective, could also be told from Sunset's perspective. But we do see a more Sunset-oriented version in the comic, because she sees Celestia as almost like this angry, vengeful princess, somewhat tyrant, keeping secrets from her students kind of thing. So it kind of does almost feel like it's from Sunset's perspective, and it's really interesting to see it like that. It could have been a Fiendship is Magic comic, but it really does tell you the backstory, maybe her side of the story, via the fact that we see her more often. It could also just be like from the complaints of Celestia's students and how they reflect Sunset in their own ways. So, the Minty Root version, the animation version, it could be more oriented to Celestia's side of the story, which was poorly done in the first EQG. I understand they wanted to do a backstory of explaining how the former student Sunset was, and the fact that, like, the more she kind of got along in her lessons, the more she wanted more. Okay, that was a bad way of explaining that, but I mean, like, the more lessons she learned from magic, the more powerful she wanted to become, the more she wanted to do. But there's limitations to that. As we all know, power hungriness causes corruption. We've learned that in Season 8. We've learned it in Season 3 of Trixie. So, hey, there's a lot of things there's a lot of people that want power and corruption. But that's not a part of that conversation at all, is it? So, I would say definitely to contrast. Oh, there's a lot of contrast in this. The fact that the comic story's darker, it tells a darker side. It could be Sunset's darker side, speaking of how she lost it all. The animation version could be talking from Celestia's perspective that we never got. And it's very shocking to see, like, how the relationship sums up. It could be weeks before the Fall of Sunset Shimmer events occurred, and we could be seeing it from Celestia's perspective as the weeks grow until the event of the Fall of Sunset Shimmer. Who knows? But if Sunset discovered the mirror before Celestia took her to look at the mirror and see who she was, about humility, then that would explain why she was curious. But at the same time, if Sunset walked in while Celestia was kind of looking at it from when she was a student, it would make sense. So there's a lot of questions and not enough answers to answer those questions. It's going to take more than just me to, like, figure out what the current events were from before, during, maybe after I'm not too sure. But there's definitely perspectives going on here, and I theorize the comic version seeing it from Sunset Shimmer's perspective of the events, while the animation version, the fan animation version, is going by Celestia's side of the story. What really contrasts is Sunset's attitude. The comic version shows her being an absolute dick. I'm going to say it. She became a very major dick. I know it's kind of the rude way of saying it, but she doesn't get it sometimes. Like, the reason why she can't progress is because she's too focused on the power. She's focused on trying to build her own might of having absolute power, i.e. Alec Trevelyan, GoldenEye, right back at you. And the fact that she wanted to learn more, the more information she had, she thought she had more power. Hey, that's one thing, but also, information doesn't get you squat with friendship. Sure, you may have all the information in the world, but where does that leave you? Isolated. Yes, I said it. Isolation. Now, for the animation version, we do see her trying to want to make friends, but she doesn't know how. She doesn't know where to start. Plus, every time she wants to strike up a conversation, you notice the next pony going to talk to their friend, which kind of starts to see the isolation and why she does it. It could make sense. I don't know. It looks like she's trying to connect. She wants to open herself up more, but she's having a hard time doing it. Which is interesting, because I would say that this would change her perspective. Like, this would be the reason why she turned from good Sunset to evil Sunset, or bad version, what we're used to knowing. Which would make sense. The fighting in both versions almost feel the same. It's both powerful and it's dark. It's in a dark setting. You do see Celestia and Sunset do argue with each other. It's normal. But Celestia drops the ball in the comic. Sunset actually drops the ball in the animation. Oh boy, spaghettios. But it's very, very deep. The animation version almost drives the knife deeper into you, and it's very dark. Like the fact that maybe she didn't get the message and felt like she was failing Celestia, because she felt like she's been getting the wrong messages. In the animation version, the comic version, Sunset feels held back by Celestia's wanting to make friends and not to learn more, gain more power, and also feel like that she needs to rule the damn world. And that's very, very, like, even I'm just, like, still trying to piece it all together. It's still a messy analysis, but it helps build character for both of them. We do see more development within the two. It doesn't make them two-dimensional anymore. It makes them more three-dimensional, maybe four-dimensional. Who the fuck knows? But it does serve a purpose that it's trying to show the events during to right when Sunset goes through the crystal mirror and goes into the human world, than the beginning of the events of Equestria Girls. So, with that in mind, and a lot of hard, kind of unfiltered thinking and not refined thinking, because even I'm still having a headache thinking about it, and I know it's a sloppy analysis. Understand, I just watched these today. Well, correction, I watched the other one a long time ago. The animation version, just watched today twice, because I wanted to get a full understanding of both the comic and the story elements of both sides. And it's difficult because it does, like, sure, it kind of does explain certain things. Why Sunset wants to make friends, but she couldn't. Why Celestia urges her to make friends and wants her to keep succeeding. And the fact that she kind of restricted her from the library in the animation kind of feels weird. Because wouldn't the library be more open source? In the comic version, there's a dark section of the library, i.e. Harry Potter wise. It's still a giant question mark. Because it's still very, 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 very confusing. But they both tell good stories. And I praise both of them for their hard works. This is why it's my personal favorites. Because we do get a backstory that we can enjoy, and it helps build character. Clarifies whose story it is, whose side of the story do we believe. But it's also who needs to be blamed the most, the mentor or the student. The answer is both. Sunset's in the wrong because of she wants more power, she wants more knowledge, and she wants to rule the damn world. And she doesn't want to make friends, which I saw in the animation, that she wants to try, she wants to learn. Which also means that Celestia is in the wrong because she could have failed her in some way. Of course, she did say that she's made one of many mistakes, i.e. banishing her own sister to the moon, failing Sunset Shimmer, of course, maybe banishing her as a third, and of course, I would say, well, actually, save that, because who knows what mistakes she'll make, but that's normal. We all make mistakes. There's nothing to beat yourself up for. But, take into account from the both versions, maybe there should have been more clarification. As in, if the student's having problems and her friendships are sinking because she's doing something wrong, there needs to be a set of clarity instead of presenting a giant fucking mirror and saying, what do you see? Because you know you're gonna get the wrong message. So someone messed up, and it was the mentor and the student. Both equally deserve an apology to each other. Yes, that's already been done, but should it been done sooner than later? No, because it actually worked. Sure, we got a bland story in the first movie of EQG. The second one, it kind of clarified a little bit more and gave a little bit more insight. Third, brought more information out than necessary, and of course I'm adding the shorts into this, even though there's not much that I've seen of it. The fourth one didn't really do much, but we knew that something was going down. And of course the other two movies, or short movies, we finally get a resolution of it, but we still have a feeling we're going to be seeing more of the story later on. Who knows? But aside all of that, both the animation and the IDW comic did spot on. It's a spot on good story. I enjoyed both the animation and the comic equally, but also taking into account that it's very hard to compare and contrast. So, does it mean that there could be a timeline that could write out both the stories and how it could connect to why the events of the comic and the animation combined could create something? The rift between Celestia and Sunset? That's a question we all need to ask ourselves. Was it really Sunset's fault? Was it really Celestia's fault? Yes and yes. They were both in the wrong. But they can redeem themselves. Will it happen in the new season or the final season as it's advertised? Who knows? And with that, I will end it here because I'm already going to forget things I need to say. But at the same time, I feel like that's all I can do. There's not a lot of leg room to figure out like more into the stories of both. But you have to also take into account that both of them are almost the same identical story, just told in different perspectives, which works out really well. So hey, both did a very, very, very good job. And I praise both Minty Root and the comic IDW for doing a spot-on job. So thank you everyone for sitting here and listening to me trying to buffle out a compare, contrast, and a theory, more or less, about the Fall of Sunset Shimmer. If you enjoyed, maybe I'll do more, who knows. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Favorite it if you like hearing these things. Subscribe if you want more or less, who knows. And I want to thank you guys for literally just supporting a lot of these animations, these 2D/3D animations that are coming out. It's the brighter future for animation. A brighter future. Who knows? But once again, thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Official Punch Shimmer, signing out.